Hey guys, Keith Keller, Melbourne, Australia. And we have a brand new show, but more importantly, a special edition. This is better than real life events. We are telling the world that we have got something that is better than going into the city, better than sitting in a chair and watching people on the stage. We have VR, we have AR, augmented reality and virtual reality. Now, it's 2021 and a lot of us still can't go into the city and have real life events. And even if we can, are we going to go back to that life? We're arguing that we have something better than real life. And we have a hashtag for that. I just want to work you through that. Better than real life events. I've got a special edition today about VR and AR, how they differ, how they can be used in the virtual event space or the online event space. I've just got a couple of, before I introduce the guests, I've got a couple of things I want to talk to you about. One is, what sites are you watching the show on? The show is going live on Twitter, on Facebook and YouTube, simultaneously via StreamYard. We also want to know where you're calling in from or where you're watching from, because we want to have a very vibrant community. We just started a really lovely Facebook group this week, so we're probably going to get some comments there. And given that we're watching or have a very techie-oriented show, we're actually also doing this one. What device are you calling in from? I'll remind you throughout the course of the show about these little pattern interrupts. But let me introduce the guests. We've got John and Ingrid calling in from Miami. It's a special Miami-focused show. And we want to ask the question, what is VR and AR and how can you use it in the event space? I'll start with Ingrid because that's our mutual contact there. Ingrid, tell us about VR and AR and how it can be used in the virtual event space, and what are the developments that we're now starting to see?
Well, thank you, Keith, for having us on the show and for dedicating this to Miami. We always appreciate all the special attention you give us. And hi to Irene and Doyle as well. Hi, John. What we would like to posit is that definitely being able to integrate AR and VR is very important for the engagement of the audience. It's really crucial to be able to offer them alternative methods of visualizing material, engaging with other audience members, and also being able to share their experience with other audience members. So like we'll talk throughout the show today, having the VR experience is like replacing your vision, and then augmented reality will give you additional sensory experiences, as we'll talk throughout.
Well, let's bring John in on that, because John is your contact and a mutual Miamian, if that's how you say it. John, what promises do AR and VR give us for the event space especially? But you're doing a lot of work here, so really play it out. What is AR and VR, and where are we going with it?
Thank you very much, every one of you, for this invite. I'm very glad to be in this show. It's a wonderful show. I've seen your viewers watching it every single week, and I'm amazed the engagement and the potential of engage that your audience has towards your show. So thank you very much. Un saludo para todos ustedes desde la ciudad de Miami. For us, it's night. For you guys, I believe it's morning. But nevertheless, we have a show to put together right here. So, regarding going back to your question, all these technologies, or these fancy, I like to call them fancy technologies. They're amazing the way they are approaching to the ecosystem of organizations globally. When you think about a city like Miami, there's one key element that everyone mentions to you, and that is entertainment. And speaking about how we can use augmented reality and virtual reality to engage our audience, and these two actually specifically to entertain our audience, it's just quite amazing. I mean, I specifically dedicate myself to the education and to the arts ecosystem. And I can speak to you about different projects, maybe a little later on the show. I will speak to you about specific projects in which I have adopted the virtual reality and the augmented reality in these virtual events.
It's brilliant, because one of the things that I specifically I specifically want to talk to you about, John and Ingrid. I specifically want to talk to you about entertainment from the VR and AR concept. I'm in Melbourne, Australia, and most of the really good bands never make it to Australia. And when they do, you know, you can't go because they place a lockdown on you and you have to get your money back and they have to fly home. So this happens all the time here. Like, this has happened many times that I've been unable to go to really good shows that I've paid lots and lots and lots of money for, been cancelled at the last minute. So I'd really love to hear what we can do in the entertainment space. Say, for instance, you run an event and it's unbelievable and you've got great speakers, but at halftime, you bring in the band with VR and AR, you put the headset on, you got the headphones going. It'd be like being there without being there. Is this sort of what you're talking about, John?
Yes, absolutely. I feel that the number one thing is to define the difference between virtual reality and augmented reality. I have pretty much every week conversations with C-level people who still have a hard time trying to differentiate the difference between the use of the virtual reality and the augmented reality. Now, to say it in simple words, the virtual reality is a technology that is going to give us that 360-degree submerged experience. You still do need an equipment to it, meaning like if you go and you find in the market, there are different companies that are providing you with this equipment, and this equipment has a cost of money, meaning like if you have organizations that would like to adopt the virtual reality experience, they will need to invest in this equipment. Now, the augmented reality is a technology that allows you to interact visually with, let's say, a product, and you can maximize the size of the product. You can show a three-dimensional design to the product, but you're still within the physical space. So if we actually determine the difference between these two, it will make a little more clear to what are the needs in the ecosystem of the organizations in terms of adopting virtual reality and augmented reality in their events.
Well, let's pick up on the team. Doyle, we've talked about this a lot. What do you think the potential is for augmented reality, an app on your phone that makes things look bigger and you can move them around, Pokemon Go, say, or putting on a set pair of headphones and being in the event without having to go? What do you think the potential is there for, say, our events that we have coming up? A lot of stuff going on there. Yeah, we do. Lots going on. And welcome, John and Ingrid as well. And of course, Irene, good to see you here again. Yeah, look, to me, it comes down to how we can actually use these technologies for business. So is there like a fundamental business purpose for them? And I think that's what sort of drives me in terms of how can we actually utilize this. I see personally, I mean, I put on the headset, I've tried it out. I'm still kind of waiting for that aha moment where I can say to, businesses around the world, this is what you can do with it. So John, I'd love, as we get into the discussion, I'd love to hear, and Ingrid as well, and see how we can actually apply it to business. But right now I'd say that AR is probably a little bit more easier for businesses to be able to use on a day-to-day basis, right? And if you're looking at events, that's to me where you could use it at the physical location to again augment what you're looking at. So if you're, everybody likes to point their camera, their phone at the stage with the speaker. Wouldn't it be cool if you could have, additional information on the speaker? Wow.
Additional information on the topic or links to their LinkedIn profile or something. So to me, I see that as a tremendous opportunity. I'm still trying to grasp how we could use AR like in an online version of an event. So I'd really love to see kind of how we can kind of go through those topics as well. So,
well, do you want to pick up on that, Ingrid? How would we use AR and also VR in an event?
Well, again, it's going to be the interoperability and integration we talked about. So, for instance, there are tools now that allow you to have sensors, body sensors. So then that would be one additional component to just the visual, right? Wow. So if I wear a sensor, then the audience can perceive my motion and everything else in addition to just the visual. And then as we've seen, and John can give more examples in the entertainment industry, in retail, in fashion, now you can try clothes on. So the augmented aspect and the virtual aspect become really surreal. If you've seen recently, you can try a lipstick on, makeup on, new shoes, everything else, outfits. There was a recent, I think, article just 2 days ago about a fashion designer having a whole couture show just in augmented reality and virtual reality. So
wow.
So definitely we're advancing. Now, what we're not seeing yet is taste and smell, but I think it's gonna come. They're just articles for now and it's in research phase, but in the future, you could have your favorite flavor of taste and smell that goes with a rock concert or with a specific food that you wanna try, right? Or many other kind of experiences, particularly in the cosmetic industry. So I'm waiting to try a perfume on through virtual and augmented reality. And John can give more examples from the entertainment industry. Let's say a guitar experience. Let's say.
Well, let's do that because there was the Eddie Van Halen thing at the Guitar Center where they had the. Let's start there. Eddie Van Halen, rock legend, died, very recently, and we're all missing him. And now they've got this little thing going on at the Guitar Center. How did they do that? And what is that an example of what we can do with augmented reality?
I thought you were the rock. I thought you were the rock legend, Keith.
Well, second to Eddie Van Halen, because no one can beat Eddie Van Halen, and Bill and Ted. But thank you. I will take that mantle on. But so that's a good example, Jen. Do you want to pick up on that and what we can do in the rock music field? Say, as I said, the halftime concert at an event.
Yes, sure. I can name to you many different examples, but I will mention the one that recently I was involved with. We have served like the Grammy Awards in Miami City, but it's called in Spanish Premios Lo Nuestros, or our awards, and it's given to the top Latin artists awards. And the industry is understanding that augmented reality is becoming an accessible technology to engage their audience in a different way. So recently, we have the TV network working along with, in partnership with other organizations, to bring the augmented reality within the performance. And it was incredible to see live performance happening as the three-dimensional designs to embed the augmented reality to create that illusion that these objects or physical objects were on stage when they're not. So that's one example. Another example to give you is exactly what you were mentioning. I've been in contact with a few artists recently who are finding sympathy with the adaptation of augmented reality in their music videos. More recently, Guitar Center, as you watched on that video that I shared on Twitter, in which we have Eddie Van Halen becoming alive on the wall. Why is the industry using augmented reality? Because it's becoming the top #1 technology to engage with their customers. Number one, we have to, we can see that every single one of us nowadays, for the most part, we have access to a smartphone. And later on, it's going to be just the new normal to also not only have a smartphone, but smart glasses. And these smart glasses are going to provide to us with data in real timing to engage with the product and the product with the audience. So imagine for a moment, you go to the Metropolitan Opera, which we've been in contact recently, and you go to watch an opera, and instead of just look at the promotion of the opera on paper, you wear your smart glasses, and you have the composer coming alive and explain to you a synopsis of the opera, and to tell you and to speak to you about all of the singers who are going to participate that night. So that's another example.
Let me pick up on that because this is extraordinary, and I'm going to bring Ingrid in. I haven't forgotten about you. Hello. I'm so thankful that you're here. I haven't forgotten about you. Irene, I'm going to bring you in again. But I want to pick up on this idea of an electronic or AR program, what you're saying there. You go to the opera, you go to a rock concert, you get the concert out, and then here's all the bands playing, and here's all the albums they've got, and there's all written out linear, printed before the show, and you read it if you read it. But imagine if you could pick it up and go, hey, I'm going to play that. I'm going to play that in Spanish. And you've got someone talking to you in your language about what's going on and who's in it, and interviews with the people dubbed into your language. And it's very interactive and it's very augmented. This is actually, I think, to pick up on Doyle's point. Let me just put myself in there. To pick up on Doyle's point, I think augmented reality probably offers the biggest opportunity for businesses and the real world, because everyone's got a phone. Maybe virtual reality is a little bit far away, but augmented reality is much better for this process. I think Ingrid was going to say something. She's dropped out there, but I'll bring Irene in. Hello, Irene. You've been waiting patiently there. What do you think about what we've said so far as it relates to the event industry? Do you see augmented reality really playing out here?
Absolutely, Keith. So hello, John. It's so nice to meet you personally, virtually. Yes. Thank you, my digital friend. So yes, Doyle, of course, good to see you always in your purplish kind of very cool lights. Ingrid, thank you for tagging John along, because it's extremely important to hear from you, because you work with those technologies day to day. We are here so inspired. We're so inspired to know what AR and VR can do for the audiences out there. That what I've seen so far, and again from business standpoint, is that this is immense opportunity to improve audience engagement. Okay, we talk a lot about how to move away from talking heads we are right now, all right, and how to become a little more interesting and visually pleasing, if it's even possible to be a little bit more visually pleasing than this group over here, but I'm sure there are ways to improve. So, but yeah, that said, so what I'm seeing from events perspective, yes, it's from audience engagement and gamification. We talk a lot about gamification. We're all little kids. We do wanna, show us, don't tell us. All right. And what can better show us than augmented reality with whatever images, right? And whatever the So my point here, Keith, is that audience engagement, gamification, and again, product for any event, right? If you're meeting your clients, you do want to inspire and you want to excite your audiences. With that, right, the product, you can show things in the room, you can show things amazing, like videos we're all seeing out there, right? So I hope John can comment on that, because some experiments he's doing out there, they're just wow. And Ingrid being a virtual speaker now, with all the digital twin and digital speaker cool looks, okay, this is the way to kind of, right, to engage us better, don't you think?
Yeah, we'll pick up on that.
Say something. I do have not an issue, but I just want clarification too, like on the terminology. Irene, you just said that Ingrid is a virtual presenter, which to me kind of, it's not necessarily, I don't feel that it's a descriptive enough word to be able to explain in this environment, because when you do speak, Ingrid, you're real, like it's you, it's actually you, right? Or am I mistaken? I mean, I know sometimes
now, yes,
like
but when we do
create the avatar, right? But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like when you're there. Are you a virtual speaker because it's a virtual event, or are you a real speaker rather, not a speaker? Are you a real speaker in an online event kind of thing?
Well, you can do two things for
terminology.
Yeah. For the ones that we referenced in previous shows is that record certain elements in advance, or when you do live, you will be a speaker, but also your avatar will be interacting with you even. So that's the beautiful thing, that you can have multiple dimensions. And the beautiful other element is that you can bring in documents instead of the two-dimensional format that we're now used to just share a screen. All the documents can be 3D, and you can have them in the middle of the room, and you are placed in the middle of the room, and you can change the audience and the orientation. So it's much more dynamic, but it takes time to adjust. So I'm going to want John to speak a little bit about, you need a master of ceremonies and a strategic organization of these events, because it's not just as intuitive and easy to do them. So maybe, John, you can share a little bit our experience when we started to advise companies on how to organize these events, how important the logistics are, and it speaks to what Doyle mentioned.
Yeah, that's correct, Ingrid. To foresee the preparation of the virtual events is also to distinguish the difference between online events and hybrid events. So for online events is exactly what we can do nowadays with platforms like Zoom or Periscope. But for instance, right now, as the Revexpo vice president and the Institute of Entrepreneurship and Finances, I foresee the to get together the team that actually will prepare and produce the whole panorama for this hybrid event, meaning like we actually have a physical space with LED screen designs in which we can bring a moderator who will ask the right questions and who will interact with our audience, and then to embed with these hybrid models the augmented reality. Now, if in the audience we want them to engage with virtual realities, they can, since our platform allows you to connect virtual reality to our platform. So once we distinguish the difference, then more specific, we need to understand what the needs for a specific industry. Not all organizations are requesting the same needs in the business. Some of them are more appealing to the online events, and some of them are more appealing to the hybrid business events. Of course, yeah. And once we sit down with the production team, we will prepare a libretto. We will prepare just like it would do in real life in a theater. We have a producer, we have an assistant production team too, and we have cameras, and we have a whole set of equipment that will help us to provide the services for those hybrid virtual events. But once again, this is a physical space. You actually are in the studio.
Can I ask you to pick you up on this, Ingrid? We actually are asking specifically about the idea of events now. And John has given us a couple of really interesting ideas here around that an event needs to be planned out. I don't think people really fully understand what's possible, but I think we're starting to get a sense of it. Where do you think we're going with this and with the idea of augmented reality and virtual reality? It's very exciting, but where do you think we can take it?
That's for me or for Doyle. Yes, I'm happy to put my 5 cents in. So John mentioned very important aspect of it. What looks easy and cool is actually, it's a lot of work. And it's a lot of work by professionals. And it's a lot of, yes. So every cool thing we see in life, we know, right? This is not just happens. So with that comes cost of technology, with that comes cost of, so all these behind the scene things that are not so shiny and not so sexy, okay? But at the same time, it shouldn't stop us dream big. It shouldn't stop us to imagine how we want this experience for attendees be and the speakers. To me, the most important part in it is really to realize what AR, VR is just another technology, is just another tool. So what purpose this tool is gonna do for us at this particular occasion. So to me, it's very important not to put AR, VR everywhere we can. It's really assessing each event from client standpoint and from audience standpoint, and where we can add value, not just grabbing the shiniest tool out there, right? But where it really can add value. I see it in beauty. I see it in entertainment. I see in sports. I see in business, absolutely. But in business, you have to know your audience and you have to know your product so well that you can really, right, enhance the features with AR, not just doing some blah, just lame thing with cool technology. So
I want to bring Doyle in on this. I want to bring Doyle in on this because this is where the rubber hits the road. I'm going to ask Ingrid and John about latency, this idea of the time lag. This is a phrase that we use that, it's not so much about internet speed, it's about the latency between what your eye sees and what your hand does. But Doyle, are we starting to get closer to the Are we starting to get closer now to what you envisaged businesses might be able to do? Is some of the language starting to come down to the level where we can see it in real life? You're muted there.
Sorry. Look at it from the perspective of how can we actually use it for an everyday business today kind of thing. So I think that's really important. And look, I am kind of having a little bit of fun too. I do see the value of the technology, but it's like, how do we actually use it so that it can be used? And I love to me, I see it as sort of like a special event or, something that you're absolutely right. It takes a tremendous amount of work to be able to do. So is every business capable of doing it? Probably not, right? And so I want to bring it to the people to say, hey, to the businesses, how can we actually do this a little bit easier, a little bit better? How can we actually engage that audience? And to me, that's fundamentally the difference. Like if you look at like how many people have gone, to the 3D movies, right, where you put on the little goggles and they show the big pictures in 3D, right? We've kind of started that, but it never seems to catch on because I guess people don't necessarily know how to take the best advantage of it. So I'm just looking for ways of how can we actually utilize that on a day-to-day basis for businesses. And maybe that's not the right question too, but I can see where this is going. And I actually was reading an article, like VR was invented in 1959, I think it was. So what's happening? Why is the adoption rate so far behind? And I'm not saying it's not necessarily going to progress now, but why is it? What is it that space gives us? Maybe it is just a technology problem and not a human problem, but how do we sort of create that opportunity for humans to use it?
Well, let me just pick up on Lydia. Lydia's in Germany. Lydia confided in me yesterday she gets 2 megabytes a second in her house. And so she's got some major latency issues there. But I want to pick up on this idea of internet and 5G. And for all of the shiny toys that we have available to us, it's obviously going to be based on infrastructure. So can you explain a little bit about latency, Ingrid, and why 5G offers such a great promise for all of this?
Well, it's not totally my specialty, but I do know a little bit about some of the things that we're going to encounter in the AR and VR space with the adoption of 5G. As we know, 5G is not the same everywhere. Like Asia has a little bit different type of format than the rest. And the latency is going to be crucial in terms of the consumer's tolerance and adaptability to the technology. So the way you perceive the augmented reality or virtual reality, depending on the latency, will make it easier to tolerate or not. To give examples, as we all know, some of us have motion sickness, others don't. So depending on that latency, when you have to interact with all these tools and have multisensorial experiences, the latency in some people will be causing a little bit more difficulty. The higher we get towards smooth 5G and 6G later on adoption, it's going to be much better. But of course, the cost and the regional availability of those remains an issue.
And do you have a similar opinion there, John, about latency in 5G? Is a lot of the technology you are using now dependent on a very 5G rich environment, or can we do it on 3G and 4G?
Yes, one of the challenges that we have in the industry nowadays is not every single place perhaps has the same adoption of technology in terms of high-speed internet or the amount of data that can be supported by specific platforms. So currently, once we are designing a specific project, we want to make sure that whoever find the needs to adopt these technologies, before that, the speed of the internet or the 5G, how we call it nowadays, is actually at hand to sustain these online virtual events. So it's very necessary to democratize the access to this technology to every single one out there. I mean, if we give examples of in education, there's still many cities around the world that don't have the access to this high speed internet or 5G technology. So it'll be almost like hitting the wall if we want to support events in which places cannot be reached.
Can I ask a question about that from a professional dumbass? If you don't have 5G, can you still take part, and will it just be slow, or will it just not work at all? If you were, say, for instance, with the latency of AR on your app, if you only had a 3G phone, say, would it just not work, or would it be just so slow that it'd be almost impractical? Is that how it plays out when your internet is slow? John, maybe?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. It will affect the virtual event. The latency, it's a synonym of a lot of data going through the channels, and if the capacity and the power of the systems that you are utilizing to promote this event and to receive the information, what we call the interoperability, then yes, you will have to face these issues with latency and the amount of information you can actually carry on through the whole experience for virtual events.
Is there like a minimum though, John, in terms of what speed do you actually require? Because yeah, like 5G is great. Not everybody has it yet. 100 megabits.
No, you don't need. No, you don't need 5G yet, but it's much better with 5G. You can do it even with 4G, but the quality will be much better with 5.
Okay. So so how do we measure? How do we measure that then? Like how do we measure the minimum? Is what I'm asking.
Well, right now, the simple way, layman's terms, is what you're using for a live stream like we're doing now. If you don't even have the capacity to follow this live stream, then you're not going to be able to do AR and VR, that's for sure. So you need a minimum requirement that allows you now to participate in any live stream of some sort that we're currently in the normal format utilizing. So that's a very easy, understandable threshold.
But why so that, to me, that's hard today, like, because we've been running this show for a year. I've been running online live streams for multiple years, kind of thing, and there's always, for whatever reason, there's some connection that just doesn't quite, you're not able to connect on. So how do we overcome that? Is there a way of reducing that load from the technology side, so that it has the accessibility to more businesses?
Well, I think what John mentioned is crucial, that the hybrid portion will be essential. You don't need to do everything at an event in AR or VR, right? There are portions of it that allow you to interact and get more engagement. But I think that's where the art of planning an event is. So where do you really need it? How many people do you really need to be having joined that part? Maybe you have a breakout room like we do now with virtual events. You have the arcade where people have to have that type of higher access, and then the rest of the event might be able to proceed normal. So I think that's the essential, but there's no doubt that yes, it's still a barrier if you don't have access for any events right now, let alone for AR and VR. No, but to go back, I think you all touched on it. Yeah, go ahead.
No, you go. No, you're on a roll. You're on a roll.
No, I just wanted to highlight that the key part is to have to think about it in a dynamic way. It's not going to be that the whole show has to necessarily be, or the whole business event in AR or VR. But if you think about a concert, what if all of us watch a concert and each one of us wants to see the artist play another guitar, right? Or if we all watch an opera and I would be interested with Irene to try out certain costumes, and you guys would be interested to see the lights and the other kind of decor, and maybe John wants to meet the composer. So all of us can have a different experience, although we're in the same event, you see, but it gives us a choice of how to interact with that event. And the same way in architecture and real estate, right? So let's say we all are viewing a home, all of us today, right now in a virtual environment. But maybe Keith, you want to see the kitchen, maybe Irene and me want to see the balcony, maybe John wants to see the office, and maybe Doyle wants to see the basement, I don't know. So that allows us a customization of our interests. And that's the part, if you look at architecture, design, and real estate, they've done a great job. You can change the furniture, you can change the color. I mean, it gives a much better experience. And for industrial space design, I mean, it saves them thousands of millions of dollars.
Well, so that makes just that makes sense. And that's sort of guided by the industries. So maybe that's a question I'd like answered too, is which industries are, better positioned for this? Because it's not necessarily for every business, and don't get me wrong, that wasn't what I was trying to convey, but which industries are able to take advantage of that today, or in the very short term, to be able to use something like that, like real estate. And there's a company here in Australia that's what they're doing is they're doing like virtual tours. It's not yet AR VR, but they're kind of on that pathway. What other industries are kind of right at that edge of, okay, yeah, let's put this in place?
Well, John is really strong on this, so I'll let him talk about education, entertainment, and art. He has some amazing experience. My experience is in healthcare. We've done a lot of simulation with VR and AR, and it saves lives. Also in training for high hazard professions, it's done on a routine basis, and it works extremely well. And like I just mentioned, also real estate, I've seen it work fantastic. It's beautiful for the convener and for the customer. So I can definitely share those. None of us is involved with fashion today or with cosmetics, but as we know, there are a lot of opportunities, and every single day you see a news media how you can engage the customer. John, you want to share some of your experience in education and in arts?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Ingrid. I've been involved recently with the Miami-Dade public school system, and I've been interviewing, teachers just to listen to their experiences with the hybrid models of education, meaning the students are studying and taking classes via Zoom. And I brought to them the idea to implement or to adopt at least, two specific applications that I liked. One of them is called the Brooks AR Alive, and the other one is called the Sketch AR. And it was amazing. We were promoting sort of like a prototype to the experience, and it was amazing to see, the students. For instance, we took one specific topic, and we have them to learn about George Washington State in Mount Vermont. And the students that they never been there, they were actually, they have very difficulty. We will ask them, do you have an idea how to imagine the Mount Vermont? And 99% of them said, no, we don't have any idea. So we were able to show them with virtual reality and to have the experience how it looks like, and it makes a difference. So not only that, but when you point to the camera, the image, and it will appear to them in augmented reality is even better. So by using the AR in education, such experience can be applied to any subject, and it could significantly help students to perform better in school.
Like chemistry, physics, math. John, you can give the examples too, that when you teach complex volume geometry or chemistry and physics, it's so much easier if you have AR tools handy. It makes it super fun for students. Now, cost is an issue, definitely. There's no doubt. I can also share that for medical education, there are so many beautiful opportunities now to show everything in augmented reality, so medical students can learn much faster instead of before just studying in a flat book like I had too many years ago. Now it's a pleasure. So definitely we're making huge strides in certain industries, like Doyle said.
And I would like to add to that comment that I think we're moving towards the showing to actually to imagine. I know, previously we talked about, show them, don't tell them, but actually we're moving toward, because this is all moving very fast, very quick. It's not even about showing with virtual reality, but actually living the image, being in the experience. For instance, we were meeting with a known painter, and we brought to him the idea to promote all his art virtually. And he had no idea. So we were able to design for him a whole sketch of how his virtual gallery would look like. We could actually augment him virtually. So the specter, once you wear your VRs and you are inside his gallery, you can meet virtually with him. He will give you a nice welcome, and you will interact with his pictures. You're gonna be able to actually touch them. You can actually feel them with your hands, and you actually can see them in different sizes, 3-dimensional. So you will ask me, okay, and what's after that? Well, you engage the client or the customer in this case to buy your paint without hesitation.
Well, I'm glad you brought this up, John, because I interview people, tech people from different ways of life. So at some point I sat down with Overlay CEO. It's a Boston-based startup, AR, VR experience. And what they do, it's a cool AR platform. I mean, I'm not marketing for them at all. It's just, another example that they're helping artists. They're helping artists to create their own space with, you can only imagine, right? I mean, when pandemic hit, right? Most artists felt excluded from their gallery spaces. So creating the entire new, it's not even entertainment, right? This is a way for artists to live now. So I do see, right, these probably go beyond what we can imagine. It's just a matter of course, finding these marketplaces that artists can be part of. And this is very tangible, I think, because not every event will probably employ this technology, but it's probably every artist right now thinking, right, if only I can be visible, right, in places where people can know more about me, and this technology is definitely.
Let me jump in there. You go, Doyle, if you got a thing.
I was going to say, did they miss the boat though, right? Because a lot of businesses, commercial entities missed the boat throughout COVID on the good side, right? Like digital adoption was at like 25% beforehand. It rose to about 35% after and during. And those businesses that were able to actually engage with that simpler e-commerce type platforms and sort of going online and that kind of stuff, they saw like 5 years of growth in like 6 months, which is phenomenal. And I have heard a lot of artists, and we've talked about them a lot too. It's like they don't know what to do next or how to actually engage it, how to actually utilize this technology. So there are, a lot of more starving artists because they haven't said, let's do this, let's make it different. But then we do have those case studies where some musicians, some brilliant musicians said, hey, I'm just going to create a virtual theater and perform for my audience around the world simultaneously. And those are the winners, right? So
let me pick up on this because
I actually know how to use it is my point.
Let me pick up on this because I've got some really good tangible examples of people making money in the real world, which is a lot of what Doyle's been saying. How can businesses use this? A couple of ideas. One is I went to Italy in 2018 and I went to the Vatican, and I can tell you for sure I would willingly pay €100 not to have that experience again. So 1,000 people lining up in a line that a kilometre long to look at pictures and paintings and sculptures, which are obviously awesome. But 1,000 people in a row in a line, crawling along for 8 hours of the day at the end of the, it's like a marathon. I tell you what, for sure, I would willingly pay €100 to go to a virtual version of that. 100, maybe 200.
Yeah, so why haven't they done that?
Why haven't they done that?
Why haven't they done that? And when they don't have visitors now in Italy in the last year, like hospitality and travel and tourism has dropped off a cliff. Why wouldn't they have something like that? Or, the Louvre, like, let's go see the famous paintings. And yeah, you're absolutely right. I don't want to stand in line.
Yeah. Actually, there are a few venues in the world that have promoted it. I will have to follow up, but I have seen at least 2 or 3 super famous venues recently offering parts of their gallery. And I think the benefit is that not only you can see 2-dimensional, which save travel, save costs, but also the experience. Like John was saying, you can see it from all angles. You can understand more about the paint. You can manipulate it. You can experience the whole journey of how that painting got created. So it gives a much richer experience than just being in that room.
What's stopping us then? Like what more incentive do you need than nobody shows up at your venue anymore? Like, to me, there should be like millions, tens of thousands, millions of galleries and artists and musicians. The arts using this, and so what's stopping it? I don't know. Like, maybe it's just ourselves, but what's wrong with this picture is kind of how I'm seeing it. It's like, okay, you can't have visitors. What do? The technology, it's there, right? You just have to plug it in. There's obviously some costs and some ability to build that too, but we should have seen a huge surge.
Well, the answer will be, they don't have enough digital transformation experts around like yourself, because as trying to picture, right, it's not that easy. It's not a switch for gallery to start operating digitally, but let's call it out. Everyone who here is Doyle. Is here.
Yeah, no, so it's a huge barrier. So John and Ingrid and Keith and Irene and myself, like, what's going on here? Why aren't people getting the message that this technology can be used for a business today, now, right? For your business.
Well, let me pick up on a couple of examples. Not a mate of mine, but a good muser here, an Aussie guy, lives in Byron Bay, can't tour around Australia. So what he does is he links in with a little site called eLive or Ecamm, a site on his Mac, sets up a concert on YouTube, charges $20. She says, look, we're going to try this out. I know you want me to come to your town. I know that I'd love to come to your town, surf in the daytime, play at night. He's a bit of a surfer dude. 507 people paid him $20 to do a YouTube concert on a Saturday night for 2 hours. He made 10 grand from the comfort of his lounge room.
Yeah, so
and
why
he did
isn't
it.
anybody doing that? Why isn't everybody doing that? Why, again, is it money? Is it technology? Is it more sort of business ambition? Is it push? Is it drive? Like, why does it seem like not everybody is doing that? Like, yeah, we have our case studies and our exceptions that we love to talk about, right? But why isn't there
Actually, Doyle, I think, the answer is multifaceted. I think the one that spans across industries is what Irene said. There's resistance to change. And if you're not a progressive person that is looking forward to adopting emerging technologies, as we know, it's going to take a while. I think based on industry, John can share in the arts. He's been trying to knock on this door. You reached his toughest point. He's been talking with a lot of venues to try to convince them, but they're just hoping it's going to pass and that they can go back to normal. Carnegie Hall, I think, just closed this year completely, right, John?
Yeah, that's right, Ingrid. And I agree totally with what you just mentioned. Every time we're meeting with artistic leaders, there's a high sense of resistance to change. Not only that, but their mindset is it's not so much about changing for this the adoption of these new technologies within their business, but actually to remain exactly doing what they've been doing. So my advice for them is always the same. It's time to retool, to reorganize your structure, and to train your employees for these new changes. Just as Irene mentioned, it's all about digital transformation. So if your organization doesn't know anything about blockchain, if your organization doesn't have any idea of Lean Six Sigma to clean up all the batches and to fix any specific issue that it's actually going opposite to implementing these technologies. If your mindset is not design thinking, which is a human-centered concept to help to do everything for the humans or for customers in this case. I mean, if you don't put together all of these different pillars, then it's going to be very difficult. But if leaders don't want to change, it's very hard.
Let's start something here, okay? Let's not just talk. Let's propose something. So yes, luckily, through pandemics, I spoke with so many fantastic digital transformation experts, okay? And tips and experiences is there. Technology is there. What John was saying is that it's all about people. So it's all really the barriers inside of how we used to work, right? Things that's familiar to us. It's very human. So we're talking about here about business model change.
Yeah,
correct. Yeah, correct.
It's not a technology adoption conversation. It's about really shaking up your entire business as you think of it, okay? So Keith, back to your point, we started with virtual events. And that technology, in that space is evolving now. That's why we probably will have better response here and there because there are no old events anymore. So you have to.
Well, let me pick up on Ingrid's got some examples. Ingrid's got some examples of when people are using it. You're saying that in Toronto and Singapore and even in Washington, there's quite a good adoption of VR and AR. Can you tell me some of those stories, perhaps? Ingrid.
Yeah, I think they're isolated though. So the places that have tried it, they have not done it across the board in that museum, but they have chosen exhibits that were higher interest and are piloting it. But I think what we're all trying to say is that if no one tries to push it to have a larger adoption, it's not going to work. But yes, there are definitely, these are the most progressive ones that have done VR and AR for almost a year now, and they're very successful. But it requires, like Irene said, a full business transformation. You can't just start this without thinking interact with the rest of your enterprise model. Because once you start like this, you have to be able to.
Yeah. I want to pick up on what Irene's saying, and we need to lead this charge. And I've got a couple of examples, really simple examples that work and that have worked, and we can really build on. Orianthi, a very famous Aussie singer-songwriter from Adelaide, played with Santana and also Michael Jackson. She did a concert at the Whiskey A Go-Go. Now, she would have done that in the Whiskey A Go-Go, which is in LA, and you would have paid your $50 and you would have bought your T-shirt and a bottle of bourbon at the bar, and you would have watched the band and, and stood in a statue, and watched all of the show. But she can't. So what she did was she charged $10, and we watched it in the comfort of our lounge room on a Saturday morning, moshing out. For $10, we saw Orianthi's new album playing live, right? And the other example I want to use in real life, I really want to pick this up because this is something we can use at halftime in a live event. One of our favourite bands, Black Stone Cherry, which is like heavy ZZ Top, had a new album coming out. They couldn't tour. So what they did, unbelievable genius here. They actually did the virtual concert. It cost $10, but they backed it onto an album. Hey, the album's coming out. Here it is. If you want to buy it, just click this link, and it went to #1 in the UK as a result of this non-live album. It's this non-live event. Most people, when they launch an album, they have to do a tour. They fly to America, they drive around in the bus, and they do this big thing, and the album goes well as a result. What they did was they did one live event online for $10, and the album went to #1 as a result because they've got a big fan base. So it's being done. The examples are there, and we just need to have this digital adoption. We might even have to coin that phrase, or really become advocates for it. The technology is there. It's actually just the mindset now, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of it is mindset. Like I do my annual sort of state of digital in December of last year, and one of the things that I discovered was that they compared the recovery rates of the global financial crisis in 2008 to 2020 with COVID, and the businesses that had the quicker recovery are the ones that had more digital adoption, had that newer business model. So it's been proven 2 times in a row that this is really important. So for the businesses that are listening, you have to change your business model. It's fundamental. Otherwise, you won't survive the digital decade. 2020s are the digital decade, right? Let's get serious here. So to me, there's
still not convinced, right? The businesses who are digital, they were hiring all this year. Okay, they were hiring, they were not firing people, and those were really the laggers. Okay, they suffered the most, and people who worked for them suffered the most. So what else? What else do we need to know before we really start? Yes, this new practice.
Yes, we need to change our mindset. We need to shift into what is our digital model here. It without question. Again, that's what recovered. Those are the businesses that recovered quicker than your standard traditional business model, were the digital-based businesses. It was a fascinating study. So
the other part I think we need to also consider is the importance of strategic partnerships. And I forgot before when I was giving examples, but another great one was the United Nations organized their youth entrepreneurship event together with Pitbull, and they used VR. So imagine what a combination. You would never think that Pitbull and United Nations would have an event together, but I think that's the kind of big strategic collaboration we'll have to see, where you bring multiple population subsets together, you bring a vision and the mission of a large international organization that was promoting youth entrepreneurship, and all the entrepreneurs could showcase their events as well, right? And then on top of that, they brought Pitbull, who was a highly experienced entertainer, who was able to adapt and to be the lead, right? To be courageous enough to try an event like that.
Yeah,
so I think those are
which is what is called now the digital influencer. Companies just realized that they could bring more engagement to their clients, to their customers, if they actually follow up with the new digital influencers. So you will be surprised how some companies that are very traditional with their products, they're changing their designs, they're changing their products to connect with new audiences. But they're doing it throughout the digital influencers. And Amazon recently, they just opened up a project in which they are engaging with digital influencers. They certify them, they provide them with a website, and they use their community to bring them into Amazon.
Wow. Wow.
Because it's better for Amazon. Amazon has recognized that these companies are better for Amazon. So there's a huge commercial motivation there, and obviously that's important. But yeah, how do we replicate that outside, I guess, is the question.
That's correct.
You start small, Doyle. I'm sure you know where to start with digital transformation projects, right? You start with low-hanging fruit, right? You don't transform the most mission-critical part of any company or any business. You kind of start with small success and demonstrate across the board, right? Isn't that rule of thumb?
We need to translate transformation. I think that's the challenge here.
Good.
Yeah, we're working towards
it. So collectively, right, we don't want to look at just events, because events, as we'll very well know, it's part of marketing strategy. And what is marketing strategy, right? It's part of the way your business goes to market, which means, okay, if you're really stuck behind in everything you do in your business processes and your logistics and things just really not up to today, then pulling fantastic event is not enough. Okay, so how about we start with events, but this mission of bringing the businesses who need that help into 2021, that's a good, I think, noble task, don't you think?
Events are a huge part of that. I agree.
Yeah.
And that's maybe a starting point for most businesses, and that's kind of why we've attached to that, is that the event is a really good way of looking and seeing and touching and kind of experiencing it, so that it becomes more tangible. It becomes more part of who you are and what you do as a business. So I think that's like the pointy end of the spear, to say let's have an event around sort of these technologies, around sort of that digital experience. That's why I feel it's important to focus on that, but I could be wrong. I'd love to hear, John and Ingrid as well. Where do you start? I guess that's the question.
I mean, I think what I've seen is, first, what all of you are saying is important. You start with the industries that have a very high experience in interacting with the customer and having a human-centered design. And I think we mentioned it before on our show, right? Video gaming has been mastering this for a long time. So I'm not going to be the ones that make the leap again. Sports, I think they also have a lot of money. They have a lot of audiences. And the longer this environment persists where they cannot have the same type of interaction, I think we might start to see again, sports industry adopting it. They have enough audience across the world, and they have enough investors that can make it happen in one shot, right? Because I think that's the part. Standardization for something to be that large scale adopted will have to come from the organizations that run these type of events. I don't think it's going to be a piecemeal approach. And then I think the other good example we see is in the safety industry. We haven't talked about it because it's not so sexy, but it's important. There was a very clear incentive in the industries that are very dangerous. If you can train people in VR so that they can learn how to without getting hurt, it had immediate adoption, 100%, because it's a win-win for everybody. No one wants to die while they're learning something. And then definitely the institutions don't want to lose everybody that's being trained because they get hurt. And of course, insurance agencies are also interested in paying for that. So what I think we're trying to say is you need enough key stakeholders in that ecosystem to be willing to participate, to have large scale adoption. And there are only few industries where that can happen. That's just my opinion. But
Let me run. We've just come up to the hour. I just want to run a little bit of a pattern interrupt, which means that people that need to go, if Ingrid and John, you're getting tired or it's getting late there, I want to give you permission to go. I'm going to come back after a very quick video, and then we're going to do a little bit of an update. So if you want to go, you've got full permission to go without having to ask permission. But why don't we just wrap it up, and then we'll just bring it home in the last 5 or 10 minutes. Just to really bring home all of the really key points we've made here. I'll start with John. What do you think we've done today that really, what are the next steps? We've talked a lot about what's possible, but where do we take it from here?
Sure. The first thing I will say is very important that we all together work towards the trends of transformation. I think Doyle actually described it very well. It is a time to translate to globally what's transformation and to change our mindset and to keep pushing to that shift into the mindset, not to resist anymore to the adoptions. And, just welcome these changes as a positive environment to all the organizations as part of the evolution in humanity, in all the ecosystems, education, healthcare, the arts, the finance, all together working. It's very important and necessary nowadays.
Great. I totally agree. And Doyle, does that partially mitigate some of the concerns we've chatted about adoption and latency? Are we getting closer now to a model that people can embrace?
Yeah, I definitely think so. So it's a matter of, I kind of put it, what's slowing us down? Is it money, mindset, or modern business models, right? Compared to sort of your legacy model. So I think fundamentally we need to decide. It's not necessarily about technology. It's about how we decide to use that technology, what tools we put in our toolbox to be able to do that. So yeah, I agree with John. I mean, it's a matter of how do we put these pieces together to make them work. And to me, to me, the outcome is how do we make it work for businesses sooner rather than later, right? So we've got a lot to do. We've got a lot to learn. But let's keep pushing forward.
Yeah, that's perfect. Well, bring it home, Irene. Tell us a little bit about how we can use all of this in the events we've got coming up. We've got some big plans. What do you think we've chatted about today that really starts to meld into a format we can use?
Sure. So thanks to Ingrid and John for pointing out that technology is there. Yes, John, thank you for joining very much. And again, you pointed out that technology is there. It is accessible, right? So it's just a matter of strategy now. Okay, it's about our mindset. So to larger audiences out there. So Keith, Doyle, and I, we examine virtual events from every aspect. A little promo here every Wednesday evening here, Eastern time, 7 p.m. We do that. But we on to something bigger here, because what we said today is that we're exploring virtual events, but they are just part of, in my mind, go to market, which is part of business model that you have as a business. And the moment we start dissecting how do people think about virtual events, we see immediately everything about that organization. Because is this organization really ready to execute something of large scale they're planning to? Or if that organization needs a lot of help in really putting the act together. So virtual event is a kind of, to me, right, is this lakmus kind of paper that's showing, right, how intentional you are in every part of your business. So that's right. We talk a lot with technology experts, and they say tech is out there. Okay, tech is never a problem. All right, anything you want to do is within your reach. Just get your act together. Okay, and find the right experts to help you.
And as Doyle said, it's money, mindset, and modern business practices. That could become a mantra we can put on a T-shirt. What do you think?
We should. Well, next time we're wearing something like that.
Yeah, I knew you got to go, John. Thank you so much, mate.
Thank you.
And I really appreciate this. I'll send you some files, and we'll keep it moving. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Wonderful as always. Thank you.
Okay. Ciao from Miami. Ciao.
Yeah, we're coming to visit you.
Ciao, John.
All right, well, I'm going to wrap it up now. We've been going the hour, and I'm going to make some snippets again today. So thanks very much for tuning in. We've got a lot going on with our business Better Than Real Life events idea. So thanks once again for all of your great comments and your great engagement here. We'll keep it moving, and we'll see you next week.